So yeah, so hopefully everybody can hear me. Want me to start? You want to introduce anything?
No, you just take it away.
Okay, I'm here to talk about the river in celebration of Earth Week. I'm Scott Murphy. I'm the city engineer, so I've had some involvement with some of our capital projects on the river. I guess you want to talk at all today?
Not really.
Come on, all the cool kids are doing it.
Jim Scheid, I'm with Public Works. Also involved with the park and the water sports park here, so I'm involved. But Scott has the spiel, right? We'll talk about the river and the water sports park, and yeah, I'm here to listen.
Okay, dang it. And Joel Evans, he's with Gunnison Gorge Anglers. He's a partner on these things, so anytime we have a river talk, Joel's usually here. So I'll turn it over to him to talk about some of the stuff they do. But I guess I'll start with kind of uniqueness of our river. Are you good, William? So we're very unique here. A lot of this water you see, maybe half of it or so right now, actually is out of the Gunnison River. So what put Montrose on the map, the Gunnison Tunnel, I can't remember the diameter, big, 6 to 8 foot diameter tunnel, brings about 1,000 CFS max from the Gunnison River, dumps it upstream of Uncompahgre Road, and then it runs down through our system, or through the river here. So you're obviously seeing some of the other contributions coming out of Ridgeway, all of that, Cow Creek, some of these other tributaries, but really unique here that it creates, it's the lifeblood of the community, a lot of agricultural uses, obviously recreational uses, but we get that sustained large flow for 8 or 9 months out of the year, which is pretty atypical. A lot of streams, they peak in the spring with the runoff, and then they go back down. Here people get to play on them year round, and then obviously all the economic benefits that come from having that kind of water supply available here. Also can create some other challenges. Sustained runoff is pretty unnatural, and so you get some river effects and things that you have to account for when working on projects. But I think as a society, rivers have always kind of, howdy, thanks for coming. Rivers have, initially were kind of wastelands. Sewage treatment plants didn't exist yet. People dumped all their waste in the river because rivers would take it away. Over time, there was a cultural shift where people started realizing the value of rivers from an economic standpoint, recreational, obviously ecological. And as a country, we started to shift. Kind of here in Montrose, we had a similar shift. So it's kind of, I think one of the catalysts for kind of the city's major change on how it viewed its river was some development that occurred big developments that occurred along the river. When those occurred, we started getting a lot of pressure from the public of, wow, we're really losing something great here. We need to figure out how to preserve it, set up land use codes, have a plan to really take care and cherish and take advantage of what we have here. And that's kind of what initially prompted the Uncompahgre Riverway Master Plan. That was in 2000, I want to say like 2010-ish, I don't have the exact dates, but about a decade ago, they came together and worked on, kind of a overall master plan for our entire river corridor of how to manage it, protect it, preserve it, looking at, not only capital projects and restoration, but land use codes to prevent, future degradation. And a lot of good things came out of it. One of them are some buffer zone overlays on our zoning and ordinances. And so the way it sits right now, there's a minimum buffer that you can't build within the river. There's a lot of regulations related to wetlands and obviously floodplains, floodways, riparian corridors, all those things that prevent people from, because the natural temptation is people want to be by the river. Development will push right up against it if they could. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. So with that shift came some of those land use changes. Those have been implemented and are in place with our codes and have kind of helped preserve the river. Other things that have come out of that is kind of a drive for the city to acquire and own river properties. They learned there's a lot of value in the city controlling the river and its banks. So the city has kind of worked as opportunities arise to purchase and own the river itself. And I would say between Ogden Road and the north end of Colorado Outdoors, we own all but 2 pieces of it, which is great. So again, if the city owns it, it's a public asset, people can't develop it. Then it also creates it open for people like Joel here who like to fly fish on it, tubing, rafting, things of that sort. The town run's really awesome. If anybody, you can talk about that, I guess, at some point. But so yeah, a lot of land purchases, but then a lot of projects. So one of the big priorities, everybody wanted a water sports park. That was kind of the number one priority that came out of the master plan. Can you hear me okay back there? Can you hear me okay?
Oh,
You're good? Okay. I can talk louder if I need to. So yeah, out of that master plan, big priorities were restoration projects and the water sports park. So before the water sports park, they had done a restoration project in this area. You know, along came all the cool kids in Colorado had a water sports park, which, you know, they look like a big improvement to the river, but they can actually be somewhat damaging ecologically. Those can be fish barriers and kind of screw up some of the natural systems. So with that, this one included a habitat restoration project upstream to kind of compensate for some of its impacts. It also had kind of the first of their kind in the state, full ADA accessibility and fish ladders, so that the fish can migrate up and through and get past the drops. You know, as water sports parks were taken off in the state, they started to realize, oh no, these actually can be damaging. And so, you know, as the state adapted to understand that, we worked through them with that, with CPW and the state and the feds, as we built, designed, and did this project. But as they do, projects usually breed projects. People get excited about habitat restoration and projects going on, and usually that makes more. So the next big one that came was down in Colorado Outdoors. So I think that's an example of how, you know, over that decade, a true cultural shift. So now we have, you know, down Colorado Outdoors where Mayfly is, the new hotel is going in. We're able to preserve 45 acres of that development as open space dedicated to the city that helped facilitate this trail project. You know, we went through and did all the ecological studies, wetland studies, all these things to determine what areas needed to be preserved. We had a landowner that was really great to work with, agreeable, and dedicated that to the city at no cost, and that helped facilitate other projects. So if you remember, 3 years ago or so, we were in there kind of doing a full restoration. So that area used to see a lot of mining and dumping. So we went through, hired resource consultants that go through and design it the way nature would want it. So if you were to leave it alone and let nature do its thing for 100 years, it would eventually reach kind of this natural state. They try and build it to that so we can get there now, and kind of jumpstart that process. So a lot of restoring natural stream geometry, side channels, floodplains, riparian habitat, things of that sort. And you know, that was recently completed. And what's nice about those is you can usually find funding for them. So that's a good example. We were able to get $750,000 in funding from outside agencies, which, you know, brings state money into our community to make those things happen. And partners like Joel's organization are great helps and things like that. And so, you know, kind of just wanted to speak to the overall shift of how we've, as a community, I think, really embrace and understand the importance of the river now. And I always joke, CPW says, don't put your butt to the river, put your front to the river. We used to put our butt to the river, now we put our front to the river, and really center around it, and it shows, and it's working, and I feel like, you know, a lot of more great things coming. Who wants to talk next? Do you want to talk about some of your projects and
Sure,
fishing?
yeah. So Joel Evans, I work with Trout Unlimited, Gunnison Gorge Anglers, but lived here for decades, 40 plus years. And as Scott mentioned, fishing's my thing, not just here, but anywhere. But it's bigger than that. If you're going to have fish, it takes clean water. And clean water requires taking care of the whole system, all the way from the headwaters up in the mountains through the valleys, right? So this river through our town, that's pretty special, you know, as we look at other communities and how they grow and develop. Not everybody has a river running through town. So to have this right here, and especially in this particular park where there's already city property, and where Scott has mentioned the other pieces, I've been involved in different restoration projects with the river to enhance habitat and fishing. The actual first project locally was Chipeta Lake. If you notice, it's now singular, L-A-K-E, no S. Used to be plural, Chipeta Lakes. Used to be 3 lakes there, and long story, but it got blown out, got drained, got restored. It was a project that my organization and the city and others put together and helped with. So the vision is not just a piece here and a piece there, but to really have a healthy river, it takes length. And so one park is great, but when you put together all the different pieces that Scott has mentioned about the city that we as citizens own, it makes a length of river that we can do restoration projects like this in Colorado Outdoors, and each piece contributes and works towards the other, and it's a big deal. The circles I run in with fishing and state locations and rivers, people are kind of jealous of what we have here. And so historically, the Uncompahgre has been kind of a dirty mineral river. Ridgeway Reservoir changed that, and because of Ridgeway Reservoir, we can do projects like this and have springtime high flows that have one kind of recreation, and summer and fall lower flows that have different kinds of recreation. So this is all a big deal, and put it all together. It takes people, volunteer, time, money, government. It takes a lot of partnership to make all that work. So we're getting there. We've got a little more to do, but we've done a lot.
You want to speak, Dylan?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk a little bit to the transformation that the river and especially the water sports park has had on this area. And I would say really from Chipeta Lake all the way through Tavwatch, clear north of town, kind of talking about that city river run and how popular that's become. But really focus on this park with the water sports park here. River Bottom Park in general has transformed, starting with this water sports park. I think it led to a lot of different things and changed the way this park is used. I think, like Scott was saying, we used to kind of, our back to the river, and now we're more face towards the river, utilizing it to improve areas. And this is a good example that River Bottom didn't always look like this and wasn't always used like this. Was kind of a bummer of a park many years ago, and this was kind of one of the big steps, I think, in transforming it into what it is now. We see dozens of families around, young kids running around all over right now, and any nice day it's utilized like this. The same with Cerise Park, where many years ago it wasn't like that. This was not a great place to be and wasn't celebrated in the way it looks now. We have a very nice facility in the area and a lot of people playing on the river right now. I would say it hasn't always been that way. So we're seeing it transform the way it's used, and just from a resident standpoint of bringing joy and being in our park system. But I would say that's also a big economic driver when we talk about events we have down here. Funk Fest is a great example of that, how we have an event right here on the water sports park that draws people from all over the region that are into the water sports. And so we're seeing the river make changes in the way it's used in our region. So I'd say that's this area right here is just a great example of that.
And then kind of just real quick on how you can get involved. So it's a great resource. We'd like to keep it that way. So there's small things you can do at a residential level. Obviously, almost anything that lands on the ground lands in the stream. So being smart about, make sure you're not dumping things down the drain. If you see somebody doing that, let us know, because we like to trace them out and catch them before they get in the river. Don't over fertilize your lawn, clean up your dog poo, things of that sort. Those little things add up to a very cumulative effect on protecting our river and our water quality. They also have various events. I think you just had one last weekend.
Just did a river cleanup, picked up trash from end to end.
So keep an eye on Facebook. That's where a lot of those come out. Gunnison Gorge Anglers, Friends of the River, Uncompahgre, they host events from time to time to do river cleanups, for boating safety and also just to get litter and things out of the river. So I think with that, I think that's all we had. Happy to answer any questions if anybody